Hello everyone out there. I hope you are doing fine. My name is Claus Andersen and I'm Sales Director in Vilofoss. Since January we have had these webinars every second week and today our webinar is looking more detailed on the harmful effects of ammonia in the barn and how to reduce it. The presentation will be given by my colleague Jan Storgaard. He is one of our specialists into biosecurity and hygiene, and he holds a master degree in biochemistry and neuroscience. During the webinar, it's possible to ask questions in the chat. Please feel free, and after the presentation, we will try to answer the questions. This session will be recorded and sent to you after the webinar together with our presentation. And that was a short introduction from my side. Enjoy, and now I will hand over to you, Jan.
So, thank you very much. I hope you can hear and see me, right, Klaus? Perfect. Okay, so thank you for that introduction, and thank you to everybody joining this webinar. I hope I will not disappoint you and make this interesting. It is a bit of a theoretical presentation, but I have tried my best to visualize it and make it more interesting. So as Klaus said, this is going to be a presentation on ammonia and the harmful effects this component will do, and if it is possible actually to do something about the ammonia level in animal productions in barns in general by the use of those hygiene powder products that we see so much out there. Actually, you know, they are used in both in poultry and cattle, with pigs, and they are used to dry out the floor, laying areas, you know, cow cubicles, calf hutches, farrowing accommodation, the cradle for the piglets, the bedding amendment. You try to add powder to control the moisture and maybe the bacterial level in the bedding in a poultry production. So it has many different uses. And also here we want to see if it is actually possible to do something about the level of ammonia, because ammonia is a very problematic waste product component. Okay. So first of all, let's just look at some of those negative effects of ammonia so we know where we are. It is chemically, it is a highly alkaline component. It has a pH value of 13 in a concentrated form, and that makes it highly corrosive. And having said that, it makes sense that it will damage tissue in general. So airways, especially the respiratory tract, especially because here we have the moist mucosal tissue, it's very sensitive to a corrosive component like ammonia. But in fact, also skin, of course, eyes, and in general, you can say all the routes of exposure where we protect ourselves as animals and humans. This is the place where ammonia can corrode and increase the risk of infection. We kind of remove our first line defense system, being the skin or the mucosal tissue, by the corrosive effect of ammonia. So, and also a different area is in the stomach of, for instance, a pig or us as a human. We know that certain bacteria, for instance, Helicobacter pylori is a bacteria that produces a lot of ammonia. So when it passes through the stomach, in the stomach there is a very low pH value, it is highly acidic, and the bacteria will normally die, but it just excretes a lot of ammonia that neutralizes the hydrochloric acid that makes the low pH value in the stomach, and it continues to excrete ammonia while it passes those 30 minutes through the stomach and into the intestines where different bacteria can cause infection. So again, a way for bacteria to control and increase the success in terms of infecting the host. Also, it is known that ammonia is causing different inflammatory responses. So if that inflammatory response, the immune system kind of that reacts to ammonia, if that becomes big enough, we will start to feel sick, animals will start to feel sick, and we will perform less. So in general, you can say that ammonia has an overall impact on animal health. And we do see from many studies that it lowers the production results in general. And also a funny thing or interesting thing is studies has actually been done where you put animals into they can walk through different units. And in those different units, we have different concentrations of ammonia. It's ammonia in the airway, in the headspace is called, it's measured in ppm, parts per million. It's a very low unit. But if you add something above 10 ppm in an airspace in a barn, and if the animals have the possibility to move away to areas where it is less than 10 ppm, they will do so. So the animals themselves, they choose to get away from anything above 10 ppm according to those studies. Okay, so some important concentrations to note. If you go as a person into a barn, into a pig production, for instance, you will be able to detect, to smell as low as 5 ppm ammonia. That's the possibility of a human. So quite low, and definitely in the region where it will not cause any harm. Problem is, if you are a farmer and you go on a daily basis in your barn, in the poultry house, whatever, you will constantly be exposed to ammonia, and that saturates your sensory cells, and that means you will no longer be able to detect 5 ppm. So it goes up. So maybe it's 20 or 25 before you can even smell any ammonia. So a farmer you visit, or whatever, if I visit one of my good farmers and we have a nice conversation and I say, okay, there is a bit of ammonia in here, he will say, no, I can't smell anything. And that's because he's there on a daily basis. Okay, if we go up to 15 ppm, still a quite low concentration in the air, we actually start to see in studies that animal performance will be affected. Usually the things you can measure is the immune response. The animal is activating its immune system to try and defeat this toxin coming in. So maybe not extreme effect on the performance in general, but it starts. The animal will start to feel a bit sick maybe. Okay, then something happens between 15 and 50. Actually, it is before 50, but at least if we go to 50 ppm, and this is something you would see in poultry production sometimes, not constantly, but certain time points during a day or a season, and also in pig production, sometimes you will see those high concentrations. We will not see this usually in a cow barn because it's completely open system, but we will sometimes see it in pigs and poultry, and this is definitely the concentration where we will start to see a decrease in production results, increased disease level, and so on. So generally the results will be decreased. Just for your information also, we have to go as high as 2,500 ppm, then we get into the concentration, the range where it becomes lethal, not instantly, but after 30 minutes. And if you double that up to 5,000 ppm, this is where you would instantly, when you inhale this, you stop breathing and you will die. So definitely this is a dangerous product, but we don't see those high concentrations anywhere. If you have a cow manure pit and you start mixing, you can get a couple of thousand ppm ammonia in a short time, which is quite dangerous. But otherwise, we don't see those high concentrations. This is now, I just want to go through a couple of studies that has been made back in time where they tried to discover the negative impact of ammonia on different animals. And in this slide here, it's about smaller pigs. And they just had two units, one with a controlled level of 5 ppm ammonia, the other unit with a controlled level of 50 ppm ammonia. And they just looked at the pulmonary diseases. The pigs came from the same unit in the beginning, but was separated up. And what they could see is by increasing 10 times the concentration of ammonia in the airspace surrounding the pigs, they were able to double the level of respiratory diseases, pulmonary diseases. And in this case here for the pigs, it was Mycoplasma and Pasteurella. So again, definitely Ammonia is, corroding the airways, and therefore the protection in the airways in the mucosal tissue goes down, and then it becomes more easy for the pathogens to infect and cause disease. So it's not anything surprising. Also here, this is a Chinese study from last year made on 288 male broiler chickens, and they were included in this trial when they were 22 days old, and they were included into this trial that was supposed to run for 21 days. It did actually run for 21 days. And what they did here is they just looked at the general production results. I have not included all. I have just included in this slide the weight, the development of the weight, and also the feed conversion rate. And the interesting thing is that they had 3 different concentrations of ammonia. So they had one house with no ammonia, one with 15, one with 25, and one with 35. And then down here on the x-axis, we have a number of days. So they measured at day 3, 7, 14, and 21. And up here we have the weight. The same goes here, but up here we have the feed conversion rate. And what you can see is that the concentration in the airspace being at 0, 15, and 25, they are close to each other. So it seems, well, there is a clear-cut difference between 0 ppm and 25 ppm in terms of final weight, for sure. And this is something that will be an economical loss, for sure. But still, they do follow each other to a certain degree. The interesting thing here is that if we go from 25, which is this one, the gray one here, where the chicks ended at 2,091 grams, and if we compare to just increasing 10 ppm to 35, it dropped dramatically. So try and see here the difference between 0 ppm, no ammonia in the airspace, and 35 ppm. And 35 is not that high. It is not something we see in poultry productions as a steady state level, but it will appear once in a while. What I normally see when I go out there is something between 15 and 25. So maybe more in this region here. Not a dramatic increase in weight, final weight, but for sure something that can be measured on the bottom economical line. And the same pattern goes here for the feed conversion rate. We have the 3 first, the 0, 15, and 25 ppm. They kind of follow each other. It has a very nice pattern where it shows that if we increase ammonia, we also increase the feed conversion rate. And again, here we have the 35 that just completely jumps out of the scale and makes this a very bad production. So for me, this is quite interesting, and it shows that if we can control ammonia, for instance, like this in a broiler production, we should be able to benefit from this in the end in terms of the general production results. Okay. Now we had pigs, we had chickens, so now let's just take also cows. Cows, it's a different story. They are not in a closed compartment, so they are not affected by the air, the headspace ammonia level. But here, this is just something we have investigated ourselves from a different product used for a skin infection called digital dermatitis. This is not important. I just want to show you that on those 12 Danish farms here, we went and we measured the level of ammonia between the hooves in the hoof cleft. And we also asked, we looked at the hoof trimmer data and to see what was the level of the digital dermatitis. It's a skin infection, right? And we could just see that if there is a high level of ammonia in the hoof cleft, we also had a high level of, and this is taken out of 25 cows on each farm. And then we also have a high level of DD. If we had not so much ammonia in or surrounding the hooves, we had not so many cows with DD. So again, it shows that ammonia helps the bacteria to infect and cause infection and diseases. Okay, so why is it like this? This is something, this is a pH scale, and I'm sure many of you have seen this before, at least if you have heard me. I use it a lot. I think it's interesting, and it explains many things regarding this with ammonia and pH. So the problem about ammonia, I told you it's a pH value of 13, so that's up here. around 13. This is corrosive. Everything above 12 or 12.4, it becomes very corrosive. The problem is that from nature, all the surfaces of animal skin and also human skin is in the acidic area. It has a lower pH value. It is below 7. Usually it is somewhere around 5.5. It can be as low as 4.5. And this is caused by, I will show you later, but it's caused by a secrete called sebum that contains organic acids. And this is very important for the immune system of animals. It is mostly seen on the skin, but also in the mucosal tissue. We have some kind of control and a slightly acidic pH value. For sure, we don't have anything in the tissue that is up here. So this is something that bacteria do not like, this low pH value. The disease-causing bacteria, they prefer, you can see my mouse over here, they prefer levels just slightly in the alkaline area. So when they get into contact with the skin surface, for instance, of an animal, they will be inhibited by this low pH value. They will be inhibited by the organic acids on the skin. Problem is when we put an animal into a barn, a poultry house, whatever, a pig unit, we have lots of ammonia that makes the pH value go up. And when it goes up, it will get into contact with the skin and it will break down the skin and increase the risk of infection. This low pH value is important, as I said, towards preventing infections, and it makes good sense also to the natural environment that back in many years ago that those animals were living in. So if you measure pH value of soils in general, they are also in the acidic. They are also in the acidic region down here, and that fits perfectly with the pH value of, for instance, the skin. Different bedding types are usually also in the acidic region, and they are very good at absorbing moisture, but actually also in neutralizing ammonia, because bedding are acidic and ammonia are alkaline, and that means bedding with the acidity can neutralize ammonia. So don't underestimate bedding, for instance, in a broiler house. If it's dry and not decomposed, it will have a good absorbing effect, but definitely also a good ability to break down ammonia and in fact also inhibit bacterial growth to a certain degree. Okay. And just mentioning, because we're going to talk some about Stellosonic F also today, just want to let you know that here we have Stellosonic F with a pH value of 3.5, and this is definitely not a coincidence. We do this because we know the problem in any animal barn production is too high pH caused by ammonia, and therefore we need something to counteract. And also we know that pH 3.5 is not something pathogenic bacteria like at all. In fact, if they go below, there is no numbers, sorry for that, but if they go below 4, which is here, 99% of them will die. So being at 3.5, besides the other biocides in Stellosonic F, is enough in itself to actually kill. It's a bit the same we see with hydrated lime up here. We see that hydrated lime, because of the high pH value and the corrosive nature of this hydrated lime, for instance in a cow barn, are capable of killing pathogens alone by the pH value. Problem is it also kills the cow, kind of. It dissolves the tissue. That is not the situation for pH values down here. If we stay above 2, all the way down here, if we stay above this level, we will not cause any irritation to animal skin. Animal skin are very resistant towards low pH value, but not very resistant towards high pH value caused by, for instance, ammonia, or if you use a limestone-based product, or if you use hydrated lime. Okay. For next slide here, this is a bit more complicated drawing. I will try my best to make it simple. This is just to illustrate this effect caused by ammonia on the skin. I have shown it before, maybe some of you have seen it, but I explained to you earlier on the skin surface, also on our, as humans, skin surface, we have this wax called sebum. This contains harmless bacteria, it contains organic acids. And this combination of harmless bacteria and organic acids really fights off any disease-causing bacteria and keep them away from the actual skin surface, which is down below here. And also this sebum is extremely important in terms of keeping moisture in our cells, in the animals because we constantly release heat, and in that situation we also release moisture. And if there was no waxy, oily sebum on the surface here, we would lose a lot of water through the skin, and that would dry out the skin. And when the skin dries out, you will have the possibility of forming cracks and the possibility of infections. Okay, I was a bit fast here, but that is what is illustrated here. Bacteria will be repelled, they will not be able to infect, and here water from inside will not be able to vaporize, it stays inside and keep the skin moist and flexible and strong. Okay, what happens then? We add some ammonia, also moisture in fact, but let's just focus on ammonia for now. Ammonia, because it is an alkaline with a high pH value, is actually capable of dissolving fat, protein, and neutralize acids. Also the organic acids, for instance acetic acid that is in sebum. So quickly when there is too much ammonia, this protection of a sebum will completely broken down. And what happens then is no more protection against bacteria, no more waterproof surface that will prevent water from vaporizing, and then, as I said, no protection, bacteria can infect, skin dries out, becomes less flexible, cracks, and bacteria can easily go through the cracks, and then we have a situation. This is in fact what we see with the cows and the DD, but we also see it with udder of a cow. We see it foot pad lesions on chicken. We see it with breast dermatitis when the chicks lay down on the wet bedding with a lot of moisture, bacteria, and ammonia. Here we also increase the risk of infection. And this is a combination of especially ammonia, moisture, and of course we need also to have the pathogens there. Yeah. Okay, how can we cope with this ammonia? Is there anything we can do in order to remove or slightly remove, assist in controlling ammonia? I mean, for instance, if we go to a broiler house, there's of course a lot of ventilation, and this ventilation will remove the major part of ammonia formed, and of course also moisture and heat. So that is extremely important in terms of the well-being of the birds. But also, can we do something with those powder products that many producers do use nowadays, also for instance in the poultry production? And this is pure chemistry again. Let's just take the first one. Can we absorb ammonia? Can we do something? Can we see a significant difference if we add a powder on the surface of the bedding, for instance, and then this powder will start to absorb ammonia? Well, many studies has been done, and there is absolutely no significant effect of typical powder products, except for some certain types of natural zeolites, more specific a zeolite called clinoptilolite. So studies has shown that this very special clinoptilolite is actually capable of binding enough ammonia so it can be measured. Having said this, still this level of absorption is nowhere near the level what you can achieve with acids. For instance, if we go to North America, what they do in poultry productions over there is actually to reuse the litter. So they have deep litter, and after birds go out, they take out the bedding and leave it to vaporize and dry, and ammonia gets away. And after some time, this same bedding will go back into the house. And here they will usually use a bedding amendments, and this is strong inorganic acids they would add to the bedding, and this will lower the level of bacteria because they hate low pH value. It will neutralize ammonia like you wouldn't believe it, and it also will dry up. So this is a way for the North Americans to actually control. So it is well known that acids, and in this case mineral acids, powder acids, are extremely effective. And that is also what we have used in Stellosonic. And I just have this very simple chemical equation, and you have an equilibrium here. There is always going to be a kind of a certain level of ammonium that is actually ammonia in a liquid form, in a harmless liquid form. It doesn't cause any damage, but we also have ammonia, which is a gas actually, and this is the dangerous part. So if we add an alkaline product, a basic product like, for instance, limestone or hydrated lime, then we actually do not absorb any any ammonia. We can in fact increase the level of ammonia. So we will help the transfer of ammonium in liquids to ammonia gas by adding alkaline products. If in contrast, if we add an acid, we can push the equation the other way. So we will take ammonia and change it into ammonium. We will add an H+, and that makes it completely harmless. So if this is about ammonia, we should never ever consider anything with a pH value above 7, and that excludes limestone with a pH value of 9 to 10. And let me remind you that 90% of all powder products on the market are based on limestone. It also excludes even more hydrated lime. So even though hydrated lime is capable of killing, it is not very good in terms of preventing ammonia problems. Okay, here I have pictures of just a lab test I did a couple of months ago, just to demonstrate for you how this is working. So it is no secret that Stellosonic is extremely effective in neutralizing ammonia, and I haven't showed it on any slide in this presentation, but there are two ways. One is through the acids I just explained shortly before. Another thing is the copper concentration in Stellosonic. The copper is a well-known inhibitor of an enzyme, a bacterial enzyme called urease. And urease is actually the enzyme that forms ammonia. So we can neutralize formed ammonia and we can prevent the formation of ammonia with Stellosonic. Just a short comment so I don't forget. But here, what I want to show you here is that what happens, how do we actually, with Stellosonic, the mineral acids in Stellosonic, how do we neutralize ammonia? Well, the thing is, in order for this chemical reaction to happen, we need some of the minerals, of course. In Stellosonic could be the sulfates, in Stellosonic could be the phosphates in Stellosonic. We also need water and we also need ammonia. If one of those three is not existing, this chemical reaction will not happen. Okay, and this is a funny way to show it. This glass here, I have added 50 grams of Stellosonic and 200 milliliters of water. Shake it good, leave it for rest for some time, and then we can see where does the surface of the powder ends up. And this is kind of an indication on how much water can we absorb by Stellosonic, by those 50 grams of Stellosonic. And so the free phase here is definitely something we did not absorb with Stellosonic, right? So it's a very simple way. Okay, so then I take this glass and I add 5 milliliters of 25% ammonia solution, quite concentrated solution of ammonia, and I add 5 milliliters of those into this glass. Shake it good, leave it for rest, and this is what comes up. So what happens here? It kind of almost explodes. Doesn't explode, but it's a really powerful reaction. And what happens is that in the first glass we have water and sulfates. They're just standing here. Water will be taken out by the dry surface of the powder, but not much. That's it. That's the same as we see with all other drying agents, you know, for instance, based on limestone. It's not a big absorption. It's not a big absorption. It's just, minor. But then we add the final component here. And when that happens, within a second, this chemical reaction just goes boom. And what we get is ammonium sulfate, which is this artificial fertilizer high in nitrogen, right? Farmers are using also. So this newly formed solid is actually ammonium sulfate or ammonium phosphate. And so now you can see we have actually taken aquatic liquid ammonia, and we have taken liquid water, of course, and we have some powder here, and we make it all into solid. So liquid has turned into powder. And this is irreversible, and this is a very powerful reaction. And here we actually see an extremely high ammonia neutralization effect I will show you later, but we also see that the water absorption, the water neutralization process kind of is increased up to 3 times. Okay, I did the same for limestone. We should not cheat anybody. Let's try and see what happens. We have the same setup, completely same setup as before with Stellosonic. So I add 50 grams of a limestone-based drying agent. I add 200 milliliters of water, and limestone is insoluble. You cannot dissolve limestone in water, so there is no reaction. Then I add some ammonia, just like I did before with Stellosonic. Ammonia, being equally alkaline, cannot react with calcium carbonate, cannot dissolve calcium carbonate, which is limestone, right? And if it can't dissolve it, it can't potentiate it and make it react. So what happens is that we add those 3 ingredients and then we get those 3 ingredients. Nothing happens. That's it. And you can also measure the ammonia vaporization above the surface of both Stellosonic and the glass with limestone. So those 2 slides you saw before, I actually afterwards took a Draeger pump, like you can see on the picture, and the Draeger tubes. Those Draeger tubes are quite simple, but very effective, simple and precise. And what you do is you just stick this, you break off the end of the glass, so you can have air coming in through those tubes. In those tubes, we have a crystal, which is orange from the beginning. And upon contact with ammonia gas, it turns blue. And if, let's for instance say that I suck in once, I put the glass on the tube on the pump, push it down and then open it up so it sucks in air from above the surface in the glasses, then it will start to absorb whatever is in there. And if there is ammonia, it will start to dye. It will start to turn those crystals into dark blue. And the level where the crystals, where the dark blue ends, like for instance, let's say all those crystals become dark blue, then you can read here it is 30 ppm. The thing is, if you only pump once, you have to take this number. If it ends here, you have to take this number and times it up 10 times. So instead of 30, it's 300. If you pump 10 times, it is exactly as it says on the glass, it's 30, 40, 50. I pumped once above the limestone-based phase, and it just immediately sucked up the air and it turned dark blue. So it just went out of the scale, that is 700 ppm. I couldn't measure anything above that with those glasses here, at least. In the Stellosonic glass, I did the same. I took a Draeger tube and I measured above the surface, but this time I had to pump 10 times because I couldn't see any crystals turning blue. And after 10 pumps, there was nothing whatsoever detected ammonia above the surface in the glass with Stellosonic. So quite strong evidence, and not surprisingly, I have to say, because it is an acid, limestone is not. Okay, and so I just put those numbers in here. I had different concentrations of ammonia in those glasses from the beginning, and just very fast, I didn't see any formation of any ammonia because it was all neutralized by Stellosonic, turned into ammonium sulfate, as I showed you. In the limestone class, already after a small addition of ammonia, it started to increase dramatically. This is way above the level animal can live in. It's just too much for any creature. And here it is dangerously high. I have just very fast, I can show you this video where I have, this is a time-lapse movie I made, took a picture every minute. And just to show you how, I put, first of all, I take 50 grams of each product. We have limestone-based product, we have Stellosonic Dry, Stellosonic Basic, Stellosonic F, that is our 3 Stellosonic products. And I add 50 grams in each glass of each product, and I add 200 milliliters of water, shake them and leave them for rest. Afterwards, after they have all settled down, I put in the ammonia as explained, shake it again and left it, just to compare how are they reacting, are they absorbing any ammonia, are they forming any ammonium sulfate and neutralizing ammonia? Let's see. So you can see that limestone goes down to the normal level. Stellosonic Dry is higher. Whoa, sorry, it goes too fast. So here we can see limestone, the powder surface is as before. It has not absorbed much. The powder surface is higher here for dry, it has absorbed more water, and for Stellosonic Basic, it's even higher. This is the product that has absorbed most water. There is no ammonia yet, it's only water. Stellosonic is not performing as good as Basic and Dry in terms of absorbing water, not at this stage. But see what happens when we then add ammonia to all 4 classes. Now water and ammonia, and the precipitation is going on. And you can see now it is a easy to control. Now you can see it's a completely different story. Now the volume of powder, the ammonium sulfate, ammonium phosphate has exploded, and it's much higher, and the water binding capacity and ammonia binding capacity is significantly higher in contrast to before with only water. And that is the benefit we get from the mineral acids. Okay. Just to give you, this is not so much about ammonia, this is more about water binding capacity of the different product. Then we have the limestone based hygiene powder product. We have Stellosonic Dry, Stellosonic Basic, and Stellosonic F. Before adding ammonia, the water binding capacity is 50% for limestone, 150 for dry, 210% for basic, and 100% for Stellosonic F. After we add, after we add those 5 milliliters of ammonia, we get still the same water binding capacity for limestone-based products. Dry has increased slightly. We don't have a very high level of mineral acids, so it doesn't increase the water binding capacity a lot. Stellosonic Basic, it goes up a bit, not extreme, because we do have some acids in Basic, but not the same level as Stellosonic F, where we end up at 370%. So that is a major increase as before ammonia. Okay. Finally, I just want to show you, this is a simplified version of the graphic illustration I had earlier with the skin and how ammonia will break down the skin and increase the infection rate. This is just a simplified drawing of that. We have sebum, again, bacteria cannot infect. We have ammonia, it breaks down sebum, suddenly bacteria can infect, and we will have an infection. So the idea with Stellosonic is actually if the cow, the bird with the breast or the foot pad, if the sow with the shoulder, possible shoulder wounds, if pigs with the newborn piglets with the navel just cut off and they have a possibility of navel infection. In this case, Stellosonic really provides extra protection and benefits, because if Stellosonic in a thin layer, not only on the laying area, but actually also on the skin of the animal, if it is covering the skin of the animal, it supports, it helps sebum, it keeps the low pH value, it kills the bacteria, and it neutralizes ammonia, so ammonia is not capable of breaking down sebum and increase the infection. So here we have a synergistic effect between sebum and Stellosonic F, because they are in the same pH region, being acidic. So now we have 2 companions that will fight against ammonia with a pH value of 13 and the bacteria on the surface. So don't worry about Stellosonic F getting into contact with the skin of the animals. This is just a major advantage. Okay. Finally, I just want to emphasize that besides all this talk about ammonia and water binding capacity of different products, we should never ever forget that this product here, Stellosonic F, is a biocide, and that is what it's the primary goal of this product, is that it is a biocide. But please don't forget the ammonia neutralization effect. This is also very important. You can kill the bacteria and you can destroy ammonia, then you have a much better situation in terms of controlling infection and diseases. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan, for your interesting presentation. And now we will go to the chat to see if we have received some questions. And I see, yes, we have. That's great. The first one, if you're ready, Jan?
Yeah, I am here.
Fantastic. Can bedding neutralize or absorb ammonia?
Yeah, definitely. So And this is the interesting thing about this pH scale. I think a broiler production is a good example. When you let in birds day 0 and you have new fresh bedding, actually there is wood acids, for instance, in wooden chips like this, and the pH value is below 5. And this pH value below 5 is actually capable of neutralizing ammonia. Problem is, in this process, when bedding is neutralizing ammonia, it itself will be broken down. So if we have a lot of moisture and ammonia in a building, the bedding will quickly turn and become muddy. I have actually went to a poultry production at, I think it was 2,000 square meters, 50,000 birds, and the bedding was becoming muddy. Moisture and ammonia was too high. I went in there and I added a mineral acid, a high amount, I think 500 grams per square meters. And the day after, it was kind of it became dry again and slightly loose. So I was capable of kind of reversing the bedding quality. Yeah. So yes, bedding is very effective in controlling ammonia until a certain level. Then it becomes muddy and broken down. We can support the bedding with acidic products like Stellosonic.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next one is asking, you say that the high pH of ammonia damages the skin, but what about the low pH of Stellosonic F? Will this not damage the skin?
Well, yeah, I did slightly mention that, but it's a very good question because 3.5 is actually quite low. But again, it is the thing is that animal skin can live and thrive perfectly at a pH value above 2. So living creatures and tissue and cells in general are more can better accept low pH values compared to high pH value. So therefore 3.5 is not a problem. Yeah, above 2 is good.
Yeah, fine. Why is so many products based on limestone when this is not able to bind ammonia?
Well, that's one of the really good questions, because I think my feeling is that there is a long tradition of using limestone, and I think this tradition was created because limestone is a very cheap raw material. It has a really low cost. You can use it in great amounts. And I think back in at that time, not so many thoughts were made on the actual effect in terms of absorbing water, but also in terms of utilizing ammonia. This is not possible. And I think this tradition has just been going on ever since. And many producers that include limestone in their products, they do it because it gives them a cheap product they can sell cheap to the farmer. And it is very easy to mix and to produce, to have a production with limestone. It's much more difficult to have a production where you need to include mineral acids. They are so difficult to handle in the production. So I think that is the reasons.
Yes, very good. The next one is asking, the ability for Stellosonic F to reduce ammonia, is that only caused by the acidity in the product?
Yeah, and that's again a very good question, and I mentioned it very briefly. It is there was done a study at Lund University in Sweden many years ago, where this scientist looked at the ability to remove ammonia, different products, and also Stellosonic was included here. And actually, he compared the effect of Stellosonic F to mineral acids, pure mineral acids, and he would expect to see the same effect of Stellosonic F and the mineral acids, because the effect of binding ammonia is caused by mineral acids, right? But he saw that the effect was actually higher for Stellosonic F, and he also saw that it lasted 6 weeks, whereas the mineral acid, the ability to keep ammonia down, was only lasting 1-2 weeks. So he needed to explain this difference of 4 to 5 weeks. And the reason is the concentration of copper within Stellosonic F. And this concentration of copper is not high, but it is extremely effective in inhibiting those enzymes that produce ammonia. So that is very important. Yes.
Yes, ammonia is a gas in the air. To bind ammonia, you need water plus Stellosine F. How does one reduce the ammonia in the air with Stellosine F?
It is a constant equilibrium. Let me find. When you have this equation here, in fact, ammonia in a liquid form will be ammonium hydroxide. So in gas form, ammonia as NH3 is always a gas form. If ammonia goes into the liquid, like for instance in slurry, it will be NH4OH, so ammonium hydroxide. And this equilibrium, you can say, between ammonium and ammonia is a constant thing that goes on. If the temperature goes up, for instance, you will see more ammonium transfer into ammonia. If the temperature goes down, we will see that ammonia goes towards ammonium. If the pH value is increased, we will see more ammonia is formed. If the pH value is decreased, we will see more ammonium is formed, and so on. So there are many different situations that can affect this equilibrium between ammonium and ammonia. And so when I add Stellosonic in the liquid, in the bedding, I will remove some of this ammonium, and that means we have less here. And because we have less here, more will be dragged this way. It is equilibrium. If you have two compartments with water and you have a separation between, if they are the same phase and you remove the separation, nothing happens. But if they are like this and you remove it, it runs over. That's the same here. If you remove some of this ammonium by binding it to Stellosane, some of the ammonia in the air will go this way. Does it make sense?
Yes, I think it does, Jan. Good explanation. That was, in fact, the last question. Thank you very much. If anybody have just a question here at the end, you are more than welcome, and you are always welcome to write to us on our mails or call us, and then we can.
I just want to say I hope it was not too theoretical. It is difficult to talk about a topic like this without going into some technical details. So yeah, I just hope that it gave some thoughts to you out there. And you can always get back to me with questions later in emails or whatever. For
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
And then just to be precise, Jan, as I understand your little lab test, you do it with water and then you do it with water and ammonia.
Yes, exactly.
And it's because you are trying to, you will make the barn environment.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that. Good you mentioned that, Klaus.
We do not have barns without ammonia and water.
No. So if you want to dry with any drying agent, powder drying agent, that's good. But for Stellosane, we want to do more. We want to utilize it chemically. And luckily for us, there is always both water and ammonia in any barn, in any poultry house, in places where there is production animals. So we have no limitations in terms of having this reaction going on. That's the good thing. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Jan, thank you very much. I think it's time to rounding off the meeting. As said in the beginning, we will send the presentation, we will send the recorded film or webinar from today to you. And we really hope that it has contributed with some new knowledge and insight and inspirations to how to avoid this harmful source of ammonia. Before holiday, we will have one more webinar again in 2 weeks, the 1st of July. It's concerning cattle, and that's the topic is practical ways to help your herd inside and out when the temperatures are increasing. So hopefully you also can have the possibility to join that. Keep an eye on our website or social media platforms where the invitation in short time will show off. So again, thank you for participating. Have a nice day out there, and goodbye. See you soon.